Hello everybody, Queen Crazy here. Hope you all had a good Christmas. You may have noticed that this is not Boxing Day. No. I was going to upload on Boxing Day, but obviously watching the Top Gear special and being so knackered after Christmas. Not to mention there was also a huge internet annoyance. It kept going on and off, and it's been doing that for the last couple of days. But since about yesterday, the internet's been okay. So I can actually record this video for the first time in the space of a week that I've wanted to. So, all good, and I'm hoping you enjoy. Now, with Wrestling Rant sort of taking a bit, I of course was going to do a full episode of 3 about, what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I couldn't. And then I now have just been it for Boxing Day, now I have to do it now. It's December the 30th, it's the last Wrestling Rant of 2010. I am only done, this is my third one, so therefore I can't do a look back on anything, but I will say this, WWE, you better make 2011 worth it, otherwise something bad will happen to you. Making it simple, WWE, get your ass into shape or you might lose a fan here. Just saying, it's an idle threat, but it'll be something. Now, there's one thing that has recently come up which has annoyed me a little. Now, Kaval was recently released from WWE. Now, I'm thinking to myself, a good wrestler, good on the mic-ish, why release him? Now, Shelton Benjamin was good, but he didn't have any mic skills. But I'm just wondering, why would you release talent which actually has some form of worth to the company? Now, I wouldn't be the person who'd obviously rant on about people being released unless I actually cared, like Daniel Bryan. I actually gave a shit about that release because I am a big fan of Bryan Danielson, which turned out to be probably the biggest work in history if I wanted to quote Mark P correctly. But I will say this, releasing Kaval, he won NXT season 2. Okay, season 2 may have been absolutely pointless. But when you think about it, he won NXT. Now, that gives us annoyance for me because he won something which is now starting to become an event in this organization. So why did WWE decide to release him? Or in his case, he released himself. I would probably think it's personal reasons, thinking that your character wouldn't go anywhere, being frequently buried on a regular basis. This guy is one of the best wrestling talents in the world at the minute. He's seasoned through all matters of companies. Ring of Honor, he's been around Japan, he's been in TNA as well. He's a very seasoned veteran of wrestling at the moment. He's a very good technical wrestler, and he's good on the mic. But I will say this, if they really had nothing to do with him, why did WWE even have him buried in the first place? Because I think they'd have to. I wish they could just bury some guy from FCW instead. Because if you win NXT, you go on to get a title opportunity whenever you want. It just doesn't. It doesn't really work when you don't send them after a title. You go after one Intercontinental title match. You then give them a match at a pay-per-view, which is actually regarded as one of the best of the night, and then you just drop the ball. I mean, they could have worked on something with him and Big Show as a team, and it could have actually been done properly. He actually may have been used instead of being buried on a frequent basis by people like Alberto Del Rio, Drew McIntyre, who have been pushed, or in Drew's case especially, been pushed and pushed and pushed, but the crowd still didn't give a shit. Kaval, or Low-Key, or Senshi, or whoever name you want to call him, he actually did get, the crowd did actually like him a bit. And then again, a lot of the wrestling marks did also like him a lot. I thought he's a good wrestling talent, and he put on a damn load of good matches. But I can understand his want to leave. But I always wonder if the fans responded like they did for Daniel Bryan, would anyone be allowed to come back? If you think about it, I've always seen WWE as releasing always around the January, May time when they want to cut the roster fat down, and I look at the lists and I keep seeing that well, they could have done a tiny bit more with him, or they've just dropped it completely. They why would they release someone like that? I mean, it's like when they released Lance Cade. I think it was 2 years ago when he was in the middle of a feud with including Jericho and Shawn Michaels. He was being pushed to basically become a big part of that, and then apparently had a seizure on a plane, and then he got released automatically. Now, I wouldn't think that would be a reason for releasing anybody, because that's a serious medical problem if you have a seizure on a plane, and You have no control over it. There, just that doesn't create a media problem saying, "Oh, he's obviously been on drugs, therefore he could possibly be a bad influence on our company, and therefore you have to release him." And I never saw a reason for that, but it just sounds a stupid idea to release somebody because it could give you a negative black mark on the media, for certain. Now I know that Umaga's problems got him released, I think. Yeah, it did. And obviously, you know what happened at the end of that story. It's been over a year now since Umaga passed away. But when you think about it, there's some others in recent times that have really releases that have bewildered me. Mickey James, for example. Sure, she had a country music career on the sidelines, but if you release someone who's vaguely successful in the WWE, whether they've had title reigns on one side of the equation, you have to look and see, okay, they're going to TNA. They're either going to succeed or they're going to massively, epically fail, which will therefore mean that you could lose someone big. Just imagine, say, Batista probably won't do it, but if you think about it, if just they got someone like Batista, if TNA got someone big that left WWE and joined them, breaking their bloody clauses or whatever, anything could happen. But Mickey James, of course, probably the second or third most successful women's champion in the history of WWE, that is a big loss to them. It was a big loss to them, I have to say. But she was the only redeeming factor of the Divas division before it became abominably shit. So therefore, it's really lost its marbles there. And Shelton Benjamin's probably the best example of releasing someone, because best example of WWE releasing someone who had the ability, but they just never took it anywhere. And I understood when he first got drafted to Raw with the beating Triple H, taking out Evolution, winning the Intercontinental title off Chris Jericho, which is a big plus for him. He had such a lot going for him. And yet, WWE just didn't do anything for the best part of 4.5 years. The Benjamin's Mama gimmick, the gold standard. If they gave him a chance to let his mic work shine, he could have actually done something. He could have actually made it. But I mean, there's modern day examples. They're modern day examples. People could probably tell me of different examples where they've gotten into fights with Mr. McMahon back in the early 90s, or they've caused problems on airplanes. I'm looking in your direction, Scott Hall, you drunk bastard. But in that case, WWE's release policy has always proven controversial subject for many. They always go, why would you release someone because of this reason, or in case you may want to leave voluntarily the WWE. I know Paul London, Matt Hardy, and loads of others are saying, yeah, leave WWE because it's a stupid authoritarian place. It doesn't let you be a wrestler and don't let you be yourself, etc. I've heard it all, but I will say this. If you want to leave the WWE, don't hesitate in doing it, because it's obvious that if you don't like it, you can leave, unless you're valued too important. I mean, Booker T, I thought, was indestructible at one point. Because everyone knows Booker T's Booker T. He's ownage. He's one of the best wrestlers to ever come out of the 90s. One of the best in-ring competitors that wrestling has seen for a long time. And I will say this. He left just because he got a second strike on the wellness policy. Now, that doesn't seem like a good reason to leave. I mean, you get a suspension which lasts for 60 days, and that doesn't really matter. You can come back the next time, rebuild your push. But he left for TNA, probably because the lighter travel schedule, on the fact that they, at the time, didn't have a wellness policy. Anything is possible on that front. But all I'm saying is, WWE, I've never ever seen your release, your ideas of why you release people. The only time you should ever release people is when you are doing roster cuts, because it actually makes sense to cut back the fat that you don't use, as long as they are people you don't use. Don't cut people who are, say, in the middle of a feud, or basically on the verge of breaking through. I'd never get rid of someone on that end. And just look at yourself when you release people. Think about who you're doing, who you're releasing. Think about it, because someday, I bet one day, one person you release will go to a company, completely show you up, and anything could happen from there. And that's my rant on why people and releasing yeah, I just had to get that off my chest because of Kaval. If it was anyone else, I probably wouldn't have given a shit. But just seeing him wanting to go made me a little bit edgy on it. Now, as you may have known, it was TLC a few weeks ago, and I did not post anything due to my shitty internet connection. Well, the one thing that has bugged me, and it's something that always comes up. They always say after the New Year, it's the road to WrestleMania. Yeah, it's the road to WrestleMania when the Royal Rumble happens. They all say that, or it's before that. That's the thing. Where does the road to WrestleMania start? Personally, in my honest opinion, it could happen, and probably does happen, a couple of weeks before the Royal Rumble. Any reason why? There is, because you look at it. At that time, you're predicting what matches are going to happen at WrestleMania. You're going, okay, this could happen because he's going to be champion going into the Rumble. He could win then, go on to Elimination Chamber, defend his title, and then face this guy. And you think, who could win the Rumble and go on to WrestleMania? And it just you get into more of a thinking tangent than you ever could do at any period in the year. You're always thinking, Royal Rumble winner goes on to WrestleMania to win, goes on to then ends up being eliminated in the last 4, going on to Money in the Bank, or winning the Elimination Chamber to go forward as a champion of another brand. It's anything's infinite on that occasion. You look at it and you really look at an eye. But you just think that anything could be possible if you just plan out and think, okay, John Cena is in a feud with CM Punk right now. One of these two could win the Rumble. One could go in as champion. Feud culminates at WrestleMania. End of story. And that's how it could be. You could also, on this aspect, have the fact that the Nexus could go into the Rumble. One of them could go to WrestleMania. The others will probably all fight in one Elimination Chamber to fight for a championship. You never know. And you look at where WrestleMania is, and you just think they've got 2 months to tell us everything we need to know storyline wise. We've got an idea of thinking, is Vince McMahon going to get Brock Lesnar in, or it all starts in this time between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. There's 2 months, and between now and the Royal Rumble is a couple of weeks. So you're trying to think Royal Rumble winner, not. But in fact, some things can happen before this point. When you've got the Slammy Awards, I think last year, when Shawn Michaels basically said, I want to face The Undertaker again. I thought that was never going to happen because it was going to be something else, like a Triple H Shawn Michaels match. And it ended up happening anyway because they built it from the Slammy Awards all the way through, right until the Elimination Chamber when it actually came out that, yeah, he cost him the title, it's going to happen. Same happened with Batista when he had the feud with John Cena on and off until then, when he made Cena lose the championship straight after he won it. So you kind of think it could happen any time between now and WrestleMania. But I just think it will happen. It always happens a couple of weeks before the Rumble because you really do get your thinking cap on. You're able to think and just put into your mind everything that you want that could happen at WrestleMania, and things that you think WWE could do leading up to WrestleMania. It's all a bit thought processing. You need to do a lot of thought. Just pick out everything and see where it goes. You could go for a match you believe could never happen. Undertaker versus Sting, for example. Just put that on the table and see if it goes anywhere. I'd put a bet on that happening if I was any wrestling gambler, but I would love to see Wade Barrett Undertaker at WrestleMania. It could happen. Undertaker's got a race to fitness. There could be a bloody stop clock in the front of the screen if you really want to see if it can happen. I don't know. But the one thing I know is WrestleMania this year has to be a make or break. Because Cena is now injured, therefore WWE are going to put everything on the table. I think their entire plans for the Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania have now changed. So, if you want to think about anything for a Rumble or WrestleMania of any kind, start thinking now, because it's gonna be a real problem if you predict it, WrestleMania, right before it happens. You go, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Try and open your mind a bit. Sorry if I have been rambling on. I've had a bit of a sleep deprivation the last couple of days because of the Christmas break, but I will be more ready to do this next week. Okay? I'll be ready to do this next week with episode 4. And if you want to comment on anything, post in the comment box down here. Click the like button if you like it. Subscribe to me if you want to get any more. This kind of thing, wherever it is. So, and I'm very grateful of anything you guys give me. So I will see you next time, and I'm sorry if you haven't understood a word I'm saying, but see you next time.